What is up, everyone? And yesterday, on February 8th, Infinity Ward finally gave us the full blog post and roadmap for Season 2 of Modern Warfare 2's content season. So today, we're going to basically break down everything that's in that blog post, as long as kind of go through the actual roadmap image. And then towards the end of the video, I will give my thoughts on it, kind of what I'm thinking for the content offering that we're getting. But I will get straight to the facts in the beginning. That way, if you're just watching to get news and to see what all is in this season, you can knock that out of the way first. And then if you like, stick around for my thoughts and kind of how I feel about what they're bringing us this season. So as always, guys, if you do enjoy this kind of content, make sure to leave a like, as it helps the channel tremendously. And as always, subscribe if you'd like to stay up to date with all of the latest Modern Warfare 2 news, information, and weekly discussions. So with that all out of the way, let's get right into it. So basically, I'm just going to go straight down through this blog post and hit on all of the major points. I will link the full blog post below in the description. And then obviously throughout the video, I'll probably be posting that roadmap image up on the screen for, a minute here, a minute there, just so you guys can kind of reference that as we go along. So the very first thing, and to no surprise to anyone, they list all of the changes that are coming to Warzone 2.0. So we'll get right started with that. So the very first thing is obviously the elephant in the room. Resurgence mode returns with a brand new Warzone map. So we talked about this in my last video when they fully revealed it a couple weeks ago, but Ashika Island will be the brand new small map. In the past we had Rebirth Island and then Fortune's Keep. This will be the new small map for Warzone 2.0, and essentially it will be used mainly for the Resurgence mode. Basically it says Ashika Island welcomes all warriors willing to fight for honor and glory, as well as those who have a trained eye for secrets hidden in plain sight. So that kind of hints that there's probably some Easter eggs along the way and stuff like that. Obviously, again, we talked about the map itself a couple weeks ago, so refer to that video for a more in-depth look at the map. But they also go on to say that a brand new contract type is out, a new public event, and more have been added as well. So you can hijack a stolen vehicle from Shadow Company, hack into uplink stations, and attempt to discover all the secrets that this island may hold. Again, kind of alluding to the fact that there may be some, Easter eggs or kind of side hidden quests that you can do, much like the bunkers in Warzone 1, stuff like that. They also go on to state that DMZ is expanding to Ashika Island. So obviously that is the new exclusion zone. So we'll be able to play DMZ there as well, which is probably the only thing I'm going to use it for. As most people know, I no longer really play Warzone, kind of played myself out on it. However, DMZ still very much so interests me. So it'll be nice to have a new area to play some DMZ with my friends. And obviously with that, they do state that there are plenty of new threats to face, and new permanent rewards and contraband and weapon crates, stuff like that. We'll probably get into that later in the blog post. So they start out kind of talking about Ashika Island, basically just going over what it is. It's a Japanese themed map, and they said it's roughly 30% larger than the previous small map, so a little more meat on the bones, so to speak, but still very much so a small map. Obviously this is developed by High Moon Studios, so it isn't just Infinity Ward working on it, and we'll get to that later. But yeah, essentially I won't go over all the POIs in detail, but looks like a pretty cool map stylistically and everything, so we'll definitely have to see how that plays out next week. So then they go on to elaborate further on the Resurgence mode, and essentially, again, it's the typical, you get to respawn, so to speak. They do say it's available for all squad sizes, so solos, duos, trios, and quads. They go on to say that they will be doing regular playlist updates and everything like that, and they just basically explain what Resurgence is. So we already know what that is. Right, you respawn. It is kind of the more fast-paced and frenetic type of Warzone experience. Personally, it's the kind of Warzone experience that I prefer. I've played a lot more Resurgence than I have typical Warzone, so I may give this a couple rounds just to get back into it, since it is closer to my neck of the woods for sure. They also go on to say that there's a new feature called Restore Honor, and basically it says, on Ashika Island, it takes incredible courage to return to where you once fell in battle. Courage that is worthy of some valuable rewards. So every operator on Ashika Island will drop a dog tag upon death once per match, which can either be picked up by a squad mate or themselves after redeploying. Doing so grants a small cash reward as well as a single UAV ping that marks both enemy threats and nearby supply boxes. Whether it's finding out who downed a squad mate or getting a head start on rebuilding a loadout, choosing to restore honor is a solid strategy for continued survival. So it just sounds like a moderate rework of, whenever you die before or you kill somebody before and ping teammates. It's just kind of a rework and a rebalance of that system. Now it's like a dog tag that you pick up and it kind of pings enemy locations as well as supply crates, stuff like that. So sounds useful, but it doesn't sound like a huge game breaker. It just sounds like they reworked stuff already in the game. They do go on to talk about the new contract, which is search and seizure. Again, this is just, I'm not going to go into detail here, but essentially it just sounds like a brand new type of contract that you can get where you just reclaim a stolen vehicle from Shadow Company. Just more way to earn money. Sounds kind of interesting. I am glad that they're mixing it up with those contracts. There's also the new public event, Data Heist, where again, 3 uplink stations will come online around the map, allowing players to download critical intel from them for valuable in-match rewards. So again, basically just a public event that unfolds over the course of Warzone to give you some different rewards and hopefully get you a little bit closer to victory. Next up, they do announce a couple new features, such as the updated Gulag that we talked about before that's now back to 1v1, changes to armor plate vests and backpacks and stuff like that. Now, again, you can watch my previous video where we go into a little more detail, on those systems since they revealed them a couple weeks ago. But essentially, they're just turning back the clock and making Warzone 2.0 kind of closer to Warzone 1.0. They also mentioned that redeploy drones are back, so instead of redeploy balloons, we now have drones. Same concept, it seems. Obviously a little tweaks here and there. Again, you can read all about it in the blog post, but essentially the redeploys are back. They do mention that there is a new AI, combatant for DMZ and I'm assuming strongholds as well. And that is called the Rusher. Again, won't go into too much detail. It has a little bit different combat tactics to mix it up to make things a little more interesting for you. He definitely looks cool, the player model that they show in this blog post, but again, just something to mix it up in DMZ and I'm assuming in strongholds as well. They also go on to say that you can discover the secrets of Ashika Island, like we mentioned previously. I'm sure these are just cool Easter eggs, and definitely there's a lot of people on YouTube, I'm sure, are going to be hunting those. I myself, probably not, but definitely keep an eye out on your favorite content creators for maybe a look into how to get some of these. And obviously add some replay value if you go into every match looking for some secrets and possible side missions. They also, again, state the DMZ is expanding to Ashika Island. There's also the new Crown faction. So we talked about this in our last video, I do believe. Essentially, a new faction is coming with all new challenges. Unfortunately, this is locked behind the paywall, so people like myself who have bought the full retail version of the game will have this. However, if you got DMZ just free to play like Warzone, you will not get access to those Crown missions. So I'm not sure what all is incorporated in that, but, once again, that will be a new faction with all new missions. And kind of with that, they are resetting the challenges up until now. They did confirm they're not doing this every single season, but they are kind of wiping the slate clean so that everybody starts on the same foot with all of these new challenges. There is a new boss for DMZ, the Bomb Maker, as well as a new weapons case on Ashika Island. Again, basically just a new boss, kind of like the chemist from the first one. So the weapons cases in the other maps will still be the exact same in Al Mazrah and Building 21. There's just some new weapons crates as well with some new rewards. And they claim they're all new permanent rewards. So obviously that means skins, weapon blueprints, stuff like that. They've also updated a couple of points of interest in Al Mazrah, namely adding the crashed C-130 in the Afghan section, which was kind of missing before, so I'm super glad to see that's back. Kind of makes the map feel closer to home. Hopefully that teases that Afghan will be in the 6v6 side of things later on. They also mention a couple other points that are changed over the course of the map. Again, you can check out the full details in the blog posts below. So then we move on to Modern Warfare 2 overview. So obviously the big things here, they're bringing in ranked play, which is great. Unfortunately, we're kind of already playing ranked with skill-based and engagement-only matchmaking systems respectively. But now there's an official one with CDL rules, and you actually get a badge to show how hard you've been sweating instead of sweating in silence. So that's pretty cool. And I don't know that I'll play it, but it's certainly a huge thing for a lot of players. Happy to see it return in Season 2 here. Now, they are adding 2 maps. Again, we will get to this in a minute, but they are adding 2 core maps and 2 battle maps. So basically 2 maps for 6v6 and 2 maps for invasion and ground war. So we will be getting Dome, and I do believe it is the museum that's now not copywritten anymore, I guess. So nothing new, unfortunately. Again, more on that later. And then I think Terminal and another area, I think the like the mountaintop from the Al Mazrah map essentially will be coming as ground war maps. They also are going to be including over a half dozen modes, they say, with infected, gun game, and grind to be available at launch. So stuff like drop zone, one in the chamber, and all or nothing are going to drop by throughout the season. So super cool that we're getting those. Those will be fun to play. I know myself, a game of one in the chamber will have to happen as soon as it comes out, and certainly a couple games of gun game with the boys will have to take place. So glad to see those are returning. Next up, again, we've already talked about rank play and everything like that. For more information, you can read the blog post. But again, it's your standard ranked system. Everyone can rank up to new levels, and basically play a little more competitively. Again, we talked about Dome is returning, which is basically just a remaster, which was already in the last game in Vanguard, and it's been a point of interest in Al Mazrah already, but they did, cut it down, chop it up, whatever you want to call it, and put it into the game as a 6v6 experience. So that's cool. I know a lot of people love Dome, so that'll be interesting. And then obviously Zaya Observatory is the battle map, and the Al Malik International Airport as a battle map as well, and then Valderas Museum as a core map. So that's pretty cool. Again, we just talked about the various modes. I know we got Infected as well as Gun Game and Grind, which I think Grind is like you have to deposit all of the dog tags in a central location. So that was a pretty cool game mode back in the original Modern Warfare, so I'm sure that'll be cool. They are also bringing back Hardcore, so not Tier 1, but actual Hardcore. So that'll be interesting for those of you that enjoy that kind of playlist. I'm not sure on the intricacies between what makes it Tier 1 versus Hardcore. I think it's like a matter of health. Between Tier 1 having a little more health than Hardcore had. But yeah, essentially the Hardcore as we know it will be returning in Season 2. I can't believe it took 2 seasons to get a series staple. But for those of you that play that, guess what? Your time is here. It's coming back. And again, we got Drop Zone coming. All or Nothing will be coming in Season 1 in the chamber. And then they move on to the next big thing, which is the Raid Episode 2. So we got the Episode 1 of Tomograd, I think it's called, The Raid. And they were releasing a new episode of The Raid. So I'm very happy to see that they're continuing support on The Raid. And basically it just says, Price, Farah, and Gaz will be back later in Season 2 with Episode 2 of The Raid, a continuation of the Modern Warfare 2 campaign. Prepare to squad up for whatever gauntlet lies ahead, even if it means finding unlikely allies to help tie up those loose ends. So that kind of hints to Shepard. I wonder if he'll be incorporated at all in this raid, but that will be coming most likely in the Season 2 Reloaded update, later in the season, usually about halfway through. And I have not played the first episode of the raid. I would like to. I heard it's very hard, but from everything I've heard, Episode 1 was great. So I'm hoping Episode 2 is also great and kind of pushes that great narrative that they established in the single player campaign, kind of pushes that along and keeps it rolling. So a general overview they have listed next. Obviously, Path of the Ronin season challenges. So essentially, there are challenges in Warzone 2.0 and Modern Warfare 2 to earn rewards, including a new functional weapon. So one of the weapons that we'll be getting during the course of this, it will be locked behind these challenges, so that's very interesting. They also state that Ronin returns, so he was an operator in Modern Warfare 2019. He comes back, and it says, vanquish your opponents like a true warrior with his new operator and 5 new weapons during the season, 3 of which are available for free in the battle pass. So I don't know what that means for the other two. I'm not sure if any of them are locked behind actual, store bundles or anything like that, but we already know one is locked behind a challenge. So could be very well that 3 are just kind of given away and the other 2 you have to earn them through challenges. But knowing Infinity Ward, I would not put it past them if they charged money for that. And then there's also a Walk the Path of the Ronin launch event, which essentially sounds like it'll present all operators with 7 challenges to be completed in Warzone or Modern Warfare 2 based on the 7 virtues of Bushido: integrity, respect, courage, honor, compassion, sincerity, and finally, loyalty. Each challenge comes with a reward for completion, such as a gun screen or weapon charm. Complete all 7 challenges in Warzone to get a new crossbow functional weapon. So, as stated before, we will be getting the crossbow in this season, and that's kind of how you have to unlock it. So they are kind of bringing back operator challenges. We'll have to wait and see exactly what that looks like in the context of the season, but that looks super cool, and I'm glad that they are bringing that back. And obviously, if you complete those, you get the brand new crossbow. I was never a fan of it, but it's super cool to see that coming back. And they go on to elaborate a little bit more about the weapons. So we have the ISO Hemlock, which some people have been saying looks kind of like the Kilo from the past game. We have the KV Broadside Shotgun, which is essentially the AK-47 platform shotgun, like the Saiga 12, or whatever its actual name is now. It's the KV Broadside. But that will be added to the cast-off platform. And sorry, I did not mention it above, but the ISO Hemlock Assault Rifle will be its own platform. And again, that'll be on launch, as with the brand new AK shotgun. And then we have also at launch dual Kodachis melee weapons, which is basically 2 mini like samurai sword type things. I'm not going to elaborate too much on it because it's a melee weapon. I mean, I never use them. I know some people do, but not exactly tickling my fancy in that regard. Then launch window, it says, is the crossbow, which is in the marksman rifle category. And again, this is your typical crossbow, nothing more to really said. Again, you will have to unlock that with the Path of Ronin challenges. And so that's the first weapon that I've mentioned so far that is not a free weapon included with the Battle Pass. And then they also say to expect a new marksman rifle, the Tempest Torrent, to be available mid-season. So that will be Season 2 Reloaded, as well as a new lethal equipment piece, the Shuriken. So I'm assuming that's maybe just another variant of the throwing knife there. Not sure what the difference is. Maybe it's just aesthetic, but we'll be getting that as well. And it says, remember, each new weapon comes with a brand new set of camos to unlock for use across all your weapons. Expect well over a dozen new camos to be available to unlock by the end of Season 2. So that part is really key. That's really cool to see, and I'm happy that we are getting brand new camos, and they're continuing that trend that every weapon kind of brings with it a lot of new camos to try to use throughout multiplayer there. In Warzone, they are also bringing a brand new watercraft vehicle, which is just the jet ski, essentially. They do mention, again, that Ronin will be returning as the new operator. He's like the tier 100 operator, that you get for completing that battle pass. There's also a Sony exclusive cosmetic path with that same Oni operator that we saw, at launch window. There's just another one now with a cool new skin. So I know Sony is a real stickler for console exclusives. So, it's kind of weird seeing them get console exclusives and be fine with it when they're fighting the Microsoft acquisition so hard. But regardless, you do get a special skin if you do have a PS5. And then it goes on to say that they are upping the prestige level to rank 500. So currently it's 250 is the max level. That will be doubling to 500, which I assume will be then prestige 10. Confirmed. Prestige 10 will be unlocked at level 500. And this is the maximum level that can be achieved in Season 2. So if you keep playing past level 500, you just don't get experience, kind of like this season worked. Obviously, again, each prestige rank also unlocks a new set of challenges. Complete these to earn new calling cards, including animated calling cards for completing the full set. So pretty much par for the course, same thing we saw during Season 1. You could just basically double your levels and get up to level 500 now. Combat records are coming to Warzone 2.0. They mention that, so that'll be cool. I know that was delayed from Season 1, but now that is confirmed coming at launch for Season 2. So you guys that play Warzone will be able to get that. Basically, all your stats will only be counted is starting day 1 of Season 2 and onward. Kind of makes sense, kind of sucks for those who have been grinding out there, but at least everyone starts on the same foot here next Wednesday. And yeah, basically that is about it. They do mention that a couple new, bundles and stuff are available in the shop because, of course, they are. They got to make money somehow because God knows they don't have enough money. And then obviously there's a big list of patch notes and everything like that we're not going to go through here. Just know, obviously, a bunch of fixes, stuff like that. Maybe we'll put out another video later on going over all of those fixes and changes if there's anything of note to talk about. So obviously, that about wraps up all the changes. Now, there might be some that we haven't mentioned here that we'll touch on in future videos. Again, I'll be having the roadmap up on screen for anything that may have been missed during the course of that blog post. But now I want to kind of transition on to my thoughts. So obviously, we'll be doing a full review at the end of the season once we have everything in hand and we have, a couple dozen hours of playtime behind the sticks to really evaluate everything. But just from a kind of a first look over here, I am not happy whatsoever with this content offering. Now, let me add some context to that. I am a 6v6 multiplayer enthusiast, if you would call it that. I do not like Warzone. I played a lot of Warzone 1. I played a lot of, during the Cold War year and the Vanguard year. I've played my fair share, and I'm just Battle Royale out. I can't do it anymore. I've tried. I played about 4 or 5 matches of Warzone 2 and hated just about every minute that I spent in there. Again, I enjoy DMZ, so I'm glad that DMZ is getting a lot of attention still. But I'm just not a huge Warzone fan. And with that in mind, the 6v6 core multiplayer experience did not get hardly anything. So one of the biggest offenders here is, of course, we only get 2 new maps. So last season we got 2 maps. Both of them were remakes. This season we get 2 maps, one of which is a remake, and the other one should have just been here on launch. So for those of you that don't know, there was a map in the beta called Museum. Kind of hated the map during the beta, if I'm to be honest, but I liked the aesthetic, right? I liked the, overall look, and it was a brand new original map that they designed for this game, so that was cool. And then they yanked it before launch without really saying anything to the community. Now, there's been rumors in the background of, various copyright issues and stuff like that with it, so they had to yank it from the game, and now they're using it as a selling point for the content of this season. So again, I just can't wrap my head around the fact that the 2 maps that they decided to give us for traditional multiplayer that Call of Duty has built its entire reputation and everything on, right? That started with COD 2 and COD 4, their impressive multiplayer suites and onward. And all they give us is 2 maps, none of which are original. So obviously, yes, Museum is original to the franchise. Museum has not been in any other Call of Duty game. However, it was already here in the beta, and they took it away. I used the example on Twitter, shameless plug to follow me over on Twitter for fun gaming takes, but I mentioned over on Twitter that essentially, it's kind of like your parents taking your Game Boy away from you in like June or July or something. And then 5 or 6 months later at Christmas time, you roll into the Christmas tree on Christmas morning, and there wrapped under the tree is your Game Boy that they stole from you over the summer. And they're like, look, we bought you a Game Boy. How great is this? And you're like, no, that's my Game Boy. I played with that thing for like a month. And they took it from you for seemingly no reason and then re-gifted it to you for Christmas. In this case, Season 2. And that's essentially what Museum is. A re-gift of a map that we already had. Now, I appreciate that they did add it back in. They went through whatever legal trouble they had to do to get that back in our arms. And I appreciate that. I really do. Because it is an original map, right? That's what everyone's been asking for. Not just a retread, not a remaster, but an actual new map. However, it should have been added as kind of like just a one-off update or maybe a Season 1 reloaded kind of thing where they're like, oh yeah, by the way, let me sprinkle this in here for you. Here's Museum. We got the rights back from the Los Angeles Museum it was based on. They allow us to release it. Here you go. Here's a free map. That would have been handled well. But to use it as an actual content drop for this season is kind of abysmal and, to be frank, embarrassing. Now, you guys know me. I've been a staunch defender of this game basically since launch. I put out a very unpopular video a couple weeks ago stating my defense for the game when so many people were calling it out, saying it was dead, saying it was dying, saying they didn't care about us, that the devs dropped the ball. And now it's almost as if, not that I take back a lot of the points that I made in that video, because I still think people are a little bit overreacting in areas. And as you know, the internet loves to do the moment anything bad happens in the gaming scene. It's literal Armageddon for some people, especially on Twitter and Reddit. But damn it all, if Infinity Ward isn't trying to give those guys a good point. I mean, this is sad. And now if you're a Warzone player, yeah, you're probably looking at this listing and saying how great everything is, because you get a brand new map, you get Resurgence back, and things of that nature. But everything else about the update just feels like, again, they're getting things back to kind of how it should have been at launch. With the exception of Dome, right? I mean, Dome is a nice extension, but it should follow the same path that previous seasons and previous games following the same format have used. It should be like a cherry on top. We should get 2 or 3 new maps per season. And then also, oh, by the way, we took a POI from Warzone, spruced it up a little bit, changed up the borders and everything, added a box here or two there to match the original flow. And now it's a multiplayer map for you. That's what Modern Warfare 2019 did, right? They would give us a couple new maps, a couple brand new, shiny, well-designed maps. And then they were like, oh yeah, by the way, here's a remaster or two to add to that. Because let's be honest, those are kind of the easy, quick and easy stuff, right? If you were to make a meal, you spend hours making a nice main course meal, and then maybe you toss in a quick frozen pie into the oven for dessert or something. You didn't have to put much work into it, but it adds to the meal and people are glad you have it. But right now, they're just giving us a frozen dinner and saying, oh, look, this is what we worked so hard for. And keep in mind that this season was delayed by 2 weeks, which I have to imagine is because of all the stuff that they're adding to Warzone. So Warzone gets a brand new, huge, well, it's a small map, but you know what I mean, a huge Warzone map. They get a new mode. They get this, that, and the other thing. And you can't even say the weapons are 6v6 exclusive, because they're probably also added just to fill holes in the meta in Warzone, because Warzone benefits from new weapons just the same as 6v6 does. So really, the only thing that 6v6 is getting is 2 maps, which we've already talked about how crappy of an offering those 2 maps are. These aren't even 2 brand new maps. And then we're getting a couple of game modes, which, no offense, have been in previous games since like 2010. And I'm super happy that we're getting gun game. I'm super, super excited to play One in the Chamber and Infected, stuff like that. Like, that'll be really fun. But those are the kind of things that should just be there on launch. Or, again, sprinkled in as a, hey guys, guess what? This is also in here. But they're propping up their seasonal offerings on the backs of content that should just be there. Or, again, they're taking stuff from us and then re-gifting it later. And that was kind of a complaint with Season 1 as well. But in my mind, I looked at Season 1, and I was tentative to be super disappointed then, because I thought in my mind, okay, this season is clearly to launch Warzone and DMZ. So in my mind, that was kind of rationalized. I was still a little bit upset because I didn't really care about Warzone. I still wanted 6v6. But it made sense, right? That was the belle of the ball. They were trying to release Warzone. That was the big red carpet event for it, Season 1, get that out. So I'm sure there's a lot of work that went into that, making sure that launched in a somewhat usable state. Getting DMZ, which is a brand new map to the mode to the series, rather, getting that all set up and ready to go. And it kind of made sense the multiplayer would play a little bit of, to the wayside, on the back burner, so to speak. But that was all with the expectation that come Season 2, that would all change. Okay, now that we got that all out of the way, now we can actually pay attention to multiplayer. And it didn't happen. Matter of fact, I think we were even further down the chute than we were the last time. Because at least they had to go through the trouble of remastering 2 maps last time. 2 maps that weren't found anywhere else in the game. This time, they're literally taking a POI from an already established map, maybe throwing, a couple dozen man-hours into redding it up for 6v6, and then taking a map that was already in the game and has been since September. I played it in September. Right? I mean, leaves were still on the trees the last time I got to play that game, and now they're releasing it to us and acting like it's, this brand new content that they've generated for us. And again, that was fine in season one when I knew there were bigger fish to fry. But now in season two, it's just further reinforcing the point that they do not care about 6v6 multiplayer. That's not what's making them the most money. They can't get, random 13-year-olds off the street with a free-to-play model like they can in Warzone 2. Nobody's using mommy and daddy's credit cards to buy, 2,000 COD points in multiplayer. I mean, they are, but probably not to the same extent. The Battle Pass probably isn't pulling as much money as, it would otherwise. And so they just frankly don't care. And this is, I can go on a rant in a separate video of how that sucks. And I have another video previously, like a few months ago, talking about how it already felt like Warzone is getting all the love and 6v6 is getting nothing. But this season 2 just reaffirms that. And it's easy to tell yourself, well, okay, maybe in season 3, but at what point do we stop? At what point do we stop saying, well, maybe the next season, because you could easily rationalize it if you really wanted to and say, well, this season they had to get out Resurgence, they had to get out the small map. But what happens next season? When they give us like some new Warzone map, or they change up Warzone in some crazy way, they change it up with different POIs, they have like a zombie outbreak or, something crazy. And then once again, 6v6 multiplayer gets like Nuketown remastered or something. And that's it. Then do you say to yourself, oh, well, maybe in season 4. Like, no, at some point it has to stop. And Infinity Ward, the resources aren't even, strained across both modes. Like, there's several other game companies making content for Warzone 2.0. So it's not like, people are stepping on each other's shoes, they're burning the wick at both ends. Like, no. There's 2 different teams working on it. So you can't tell me they don't have enough manpower, enough brain power, enough creativity, whatever you want to call it, playtesting, to give us at least 3 maps. At least one brand new, never before seen map. We are going to be, I think this season ends, if it follows the path of previous seasons, about 2 months. So we're looking right around the middle of April, maybe the beginning of May, depending on how they space it out. So it'll be May or the end of April, and we will have had 4 maps added to the game, none of which are new, 3 of which are remasters that we have literally played last year too, because keep in mind we had Shipment, albeit a little bit different version of Shipment, but Shipment and Dome, which again was also reimagined last year. But either way, we played Shipment and Dome last year in Vanguard. Then they give it back to us this year, and that's 50% of the multiplayer map offering. Now, who knows, maybe season 3 comes out and there's 6 multiplayer maps, and I'm eating my words, but I highly doubt it. I'm willing to bet there will be another massive slew of Warzone and DMZ content. And then multiplayer will get like 2, maybe 3 maps if they really bust their ass and try to cover up for this season. And we're talking already May. Now, the future of Call of Duty is kind of up in the air. For the longest time we heard that this will be a 2-year game. Now they're kind of coming back, and it sounds like there might be a brand new game out in the fall. We don't know if that's an expansion or a whole new game. Like the wording by Activision is all over the place, and the leaks are all over the place. So we don't really know what the future of this game holds. We could, again, come the end of October, middle of November, be playing a completely different game. And for half of the year, we are operating off of 4 new multiplayer maps that aren't even new. So again, I could go on an entire rant for probably an hour in a different video, but I just wanted to give my thoughts on it. I am glad that there is 5 new weapons coming. I am glad that the new modes are coming. I'm happy for the Warzone players that they're getting the Resurgence. That might even get, my ass in a Warzone game once or twice because I enjoy Resurgence. I'll definitely be playing DMZ a couple times in the new map. But that's not what I'm here for. That's not what I've played Call of Duty for since 2008 when I started. I'm here for 6v6, and millions of other people are. And I know a lot of content creators that I respect heavily have been echoing the exact same thing. They are upset. Exclusive Ace, Prestigious Key, they are both livid today after this. And I can't really disagree with them. Because again, players like us that enjoy this kind of content, and there are still millions of us, don't get it twisted, we're just getting thrown to the wayside because Warzone is the new, fresh, hip, and happening thing. And I don't know that it'll ever, I don't know if you could put the cat back in the bag. I think it just gets worse and worse. So, again, we'll probably have a deeper rant video about this at some point, but I just wanted to give my thoughts and kind of get what you guys think. Are you kind of feeling the same way? Or are you a Warzone player and are you really, really excited for all these string of updates? Let me know in the comments section below. And as always, guys, if you've stuck around this long, definitely leave a like and subscribe for more content. I'll be covering everything that happens with Season 2 and onwards, especially once we get new information about the next year of Call of Duty and stuff like that. So other than that, guys, I appreciate sticking around for this. And yeah, we'll catch you in the next one.